Parental fatigue, burnout. If you're feeling this, we get it. But there's one thing we use when we're feeling depleted. It's called Rehydrate. Delicious electrolytes that increase blood flow to your brain, organs, and nervous system, boosting your energy without anything nasty. Magic.
Next time you're feeling flat, give Rehydrate a go. Available at Coles.
G'day everybody and welcome. This is the all-new Positivity Podcast, episode number 6. Hello, my name is Dr. Justin Coulson, and this is the podcast that's dedicated to making your life, your work, and your family happier. As you know, this was the Happy Families podcast until the recent change, but this week and next week I'm keeping with the families theme because there's a few things that I really want to share with you, things that I've talked about in previous podcasts that I want to get out and make sure that I really explain clearly before the change becomes complete. If you've heard in the last couple of podcasts that I've shared, with the exception of last ones about pocket money, the issue of praise has come up again and again and again. And a few people have taken me to task over it, particularly on Facebook. As you've probably noticed, I'm not a proponent or an advocate of praise at all. In fact, I'm quite open about suggesting that as a general rule, we are best off not praising our children at all. I know it's a controversial position to take, particularly when so many parenting experts are out there saying that we should, how do they say it, catch your children doing something right and praise them for it. Well, why would I be so anti-praise? I mean, it makes me sound like I'm a cranky old man who doesn't love his kids. And if you know anything about me, you'd know that nothing could be further from the truth. It's actually because I love my kids that I don't praise them. Is that confusing enough for you? Why would I be so anti-praise? Well, I'm going to clear it up for you in just a minute. And I'll also give you a little bit more detail based on some research to help you to know exactly what I mean and why. I'll actually give you 5 scientific reasons that we need to ease up on praise, and I'll give you a handful of ideas for what to do instead, because I'm not going to suggest that we give our kids no feedback at all, and I'm particularly not going to say that we're supposed to be criticising them, which is what a lot of people think that I'm on about. Not true. Also, in today's Ask Dr. Justin, I'm going to be helping out a mum who is struggling with a toddler, aren't we all, who keeps on hitting and lashing out. And my parenting hack this week is a surefire winner if you've got bored little ones, anyone under about the age of 7. This will keep them occupied for hours.
Are you pulling your hair out because your child won't listen, won't do what you request? Do you find yourself shouting at the children because you just don't know what else to do? Do you have a child who's aggressive or hurting you or his or her siblings? Or are you dealing with a child that is back-chatting or disrespectful? Are you finding parenting more challenging than you ever thought possible? Dr. Justin Coulson provides one-on-one parenting coaching via Skype or phone and can help you. With parenting coaching, you'll receive personalised individual guidance designed specifically for your family's unique circumstances. Find solutions to the parenting problems that are driving you crazy, effective discipline strategies where you can stop being the drill sergeant, a better relationship with your children, and a happier home where everyone looks forward to being together. For more details and a coaching package that will suit you, visit justincoulson.com/coaching.
Okay, I want to try an experiment on you. Imagine that we're friends, we're having a chat, and I looked at you and said, "You're such a good person." Or perhaps I smiled and said, "You're awesome, you're the best." Or maybe even I just told you, "You're a good parent." Did you notice my tone? Maybe we're driving somewhere and I glance at you and say, "Oh, good driving." Or you say something to me like that and I say, "Oh, you're clever, nice thinking." There's every chance that if we spoke to each other like that, we'd think we were sort of having a lend of one another. Or you'd feel if I said that to you that I was being really patronising. I'm kind of putting you in your place. Or maybe you might think I'm trying to manipulate you. It's almost like, especially in the case of the driving one, you might be thinking, Justin didn't think that I could drive properly. That's why he's saying good driving. Well, these are just some of the perils of praise. We think as grown-ups that when we say nice things to our kids, when we praise them, that we're building them up, that we're making them feel better about themselves. But the reality is, research debunking the myth of praise as being useful has been published since the 1970s. Praise is one of those sacred parenting cows, though. It's one of those things where if you tell a mum that she should stop saying good boy and good running and great sharing and good cleaning, watch what happens if you try that. It's like you've just said that she should never eat chocolate again, which is a terribly dangerous move. Well, I don't know if I should have said that. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that one. For the past 40 or 50 years at least, the mantra from many, many experts has been that we should catch our kids doing something right and praise them for it. Well, let me give you a quick reality check. We can do a lot worse to our kids than praise them. Praise is not as bad as a lot of other things which are terribly harmful. However, there are some really concerning outcomes that our children might experience when we do praise, and that's what I want to talk to you about today, and that's why I don't praise my kids. So first off, here are the 5 big problems with praise that I've identified as I've done my own empirical research. And I might add, I've actually done my own study on this with about 100 people at the University of Queensland some years ago. First off, praise undermines empathy. Let's get clear on what empathy is first. Empathy is when we feel what other people are feeling. When we feel in our heart what's going on in other people's life and experience. It's about being able to see that someone's feeling distressed and having your heart go out to them so that you actually, you more or less feel distressed for them and with them. Although hopefully you're feeling it in a helpful and a problem-solving way. So how does praise make our kids less empathic? Well, researchers have found that children who are praised excessively, and I will add this is excessive praise, may often be more likely to be bullies. It seems like the praise might do 2 things. First off, it overinflates their sense of self. They simply feel like they're better than all the other kids because mum keeps telling me how good I am, and therefore they feel like they can push other kids around. My mum says I'm the best speller or the best footy player and you're not, and I'm better than you. It's that kind of thing. And I know it might sound far-fetched to us as grown-ups, but kids can really genuinely take things quite literally. And the data tells us that there is a strong link. In fact, it's been shown experimentally. Here's the second reason that it can undermine empathy. Some kids actually get caught up in defending the fact that they're special or that they're smart or that they're super. And in so doing, they might actually bully other kids just to prove how great they are. They forget that other people are people as well. Second problem with praise is this. Praise can actually undermine intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when we are genuinely motivated to do things just for the sake of doing them, because we just like doing them. So let me quickly go back to that first point. Well, I personally don't think that there's a whole lot of bullying or empathy being lost because of praise. It does happen. But I think that this second problem is really quite a serious one, because the data convincingly tell us that by praising our kids, they actually lose interest in what we're asking them to do. They think, gee, if they have to verbally reward me for doing this, it mustn't be worth doing. We can actually create praise junkies. And they think that if we have to keep on saying, oh, you're such a good boy for doing that, well, gee, it mustn't be a very good thing for me to have to do on my own. It's just as well they're praising me for it, otherwise I would never do it. We can actually, like I said, create these praise junkies because they actually start doing things just to be told that they're good kids rather than for the sake of doing the thing. And there's dozens of studies that support this idea that intrinsic motivation to do something can be undone by praise. I will endeavour to put a list of some of these studies in the show notes on the webpage for some people who are interested, because I know that this is one of those very contentious things. The really interesting thing about some of these studies, though, is the praise can actually get the kids really excited in the moment, but after the praise stops, this is where it gets quite quirky, quite clever. Kids are happy to keep doing whatever it is that they're being praised for in the moment. But once we stop praising, that's the point that they lose the interest, and they lose it fast. It's almost as though the praise was controlling their interest. And once the praise was gone, whoop, not interested anymore. I can go and focus on something else. Okay, the third reason, praise diminishes performance. There's a bunch of studies that have demonstrated that when we praise people, tell them how smart they are, how good they are, how clever they are, it leads to poorer performance. It seems that when our children sense that they're going to be evaluated, they actually do worse on tasks. And evaluation is what praise actually is. You're so smart, you're such a great sister, you're such a great sharer. They're really evaluative statements. And some researchers have suggested that praise actually increases pressure to live up to previous expectations. And so kids actually underperform because they're feeling so pressured. What will I be able to do? Will mum still love me if I can't do it as well this time as last time? Will dad still think that I'm a good girl? There's one really cool example of this. Social psychologist Roy Baumeister conducted a study. It was only a small study. There were only 42 students that were involved in this, but the participants were praised for doing well in a video game, which is a skilled task. They've got to learn how to do it. They spent 30 minutes practicing how to play the game. Then and while they were practicing, their scores were recorded during that practice phase. And they were told that they were going to participate in 15 performance trials, and they were given a goal to work towards. Now, the goal was around about their third highest score achieved in practice. So certainly not impossible to achieve, and they've been practicing for 30 minutes, so they should be able to get there. And when the goal was achieved, the experimenter would just say something like, "Oh, good job," or "very good." In other words, they'd praise them. And the praise led to the person trying harder, which you would probably think would be a good outcome. But as they tried harder, they actually recorded significantly reduced subsequent performance on each trial. And so Baumeister and his research colleagues argued that participants were becoming more self-conscious because of the praise, and that undermined their ability to do well at the task, even though they were trying harder. And there were some people who said that the praise was followed by poorer performance because the scoring that high was unusual and really hard. But the research doesn't really point to that as being a justifiable excuse for what happened. It seems that the praise led to poorer performance. Praise has also been shown to reduce creativity in experiments. It's been shown to reduce problem-solving ability and interest in taking on difficult tasks. Praise simply doesn't do good things for our children, whether it's on the sports field or playing music or wherever it might be. Don't praise them. They'll actually feel extra pressure. And they'll usually underperform because they're feeling evaluated. Okay, the fourth thing, praise can undermine self-belief. Meyer was a researcher. He and his colleagues found that students who were praised for their work in the classroom believed that the teacher must think that they didn't have very much ability, and therefore the praise was to kind of boost their belief in themselves. And this finding's been replicated several times as well. And the fifth reason, well, praise can undermine relationships. If children don't believe what we're saying, if they think that the praise is insincere, if they think that we're manipulating them or we're evaluating them, then the praise goes negative on the kids, and it goes negative in terms of our relationship with our kids. And let me give you a quick bonus sixth reason as well. Praise is often seen, in many cases, as, "I value you as a person when you please me." In other words, it's contingent. It makes the relationship feel contingent. It makes self-worth feel contingent. And when kids don't get the praise they're used to, they actually feel like they're unworthy. They feel like they're not good enough. And that's not the message that we're trying to send, which is really interesting because we think that we're boosting them when we praise them. So just to recap, praise undermines empathy, it undermines intrinsic motivation, it undermines performance, it undermines self-belief, it undermines relationships. Ouch. So it's time to take that poster off the wall that says 101 ways to praise your kids. So you're probably thinking, well, what do I do? Can't I say anything good to my kids? Yes, you can. And yes, please do. What you can do is this. First off, express gratitude. When you see that your child's done something you value, say thank you. Hey, thanks for cleaning up your room. I really appreciate it. I'm really grateful you ate all your dinner tonight. It's going to help you grow even bigger and stronger. When you share your toys with your friends, it makes me feel grateful. And it makes your friends feel grateful too. Don't express gratitude in a manipulative way or in a controlling way. Just say thanks when you mean it, and say it like you mean it. Second thing you can do, describe what you've seen them doing rather than evaluating what they did. I know that sounds a bit confusing, but let me give you some examples of that. Let me break it down for you. I know that you think that your kids have done something great, but break it down so that you're talking about what you've noticed rather than what you're evaluating. You might say, "Gee, the kitchen looks so much cleaner than before. I can tell you worked really hard on that." Or you might say, "When you're out on the sports field or on the netball court or whatever it is, I noticed how hard you were concentrating on doing that stuff that we practiced during the week." Or things like, "Wow, when you played that song on the piano, your fingers seemed right and you had all the louds and softs in the right places." Or you might say something like, "When your sister shouted at you, I heard you speak softly and kindly back." How do you think that made things better? It might feel a bit awkward at the start. And I know that some people might say, well, that sounds like praise anyway. I suppose if you want to be really pedantic, you might say that you're praising the process or the effort rather than praising the outcome. The third thing that I really like is if we ask our kids to do their own evaluating. We might say, after we've seen what they've done, or after we've said thank you, we can say things like, how did you feel about that? Or what did you notice about how you felt when you did that? Or what did your friends say? How did they react when you made that decision? It's all about getting them to make up their own mind. Another thing that you can do, and I really think this is great, is to just be encouraging, because we're not about not making them feel good. It's just about not praising them. So teach your kids that effort brings reward. When they do something difficult, instead of praising them for it, talk with them about that process that they're going through, about doing one bit at a time, about useful strategies that they can employ. And then at the end of the process, be supportive again by talking about the effort that you saw them using and the outcome that they've achieved. You might say things like, I know it's hard, but keep it up. Or you might say, in our family, we do hard things, and right now you're doing something hard as well. You can even just ask, how can I help? I'm watching you work at this, and I can see that you're making progress. Do you want any help, or do you want to keep going on your own? If you keep it up, you'll be able to do this. It's that kind of conversation. Wow, you worked really hard at this. I saw what you did. You did it in little bits, and now it's finished. You've done something really hard, and now it's done. How does it feel to know that you can do that? So that's very encouraging, but it's not praising. So let's wrap this up. Is praise bad for your children? Well, the short answer is surprisingly yes. Obviously, a little bit's not going to hurt, but it's better to simply not get into the habit. When we deliver it in an insincere way or a controlling way, when we're delivering it because we think that we need to manipulate our children's behaviour, it's ineffective at best, it's damaging at worst. I think that at the end of the day, praise is just cheap. It's often this broad character assessment, you're such a good boy, that we give away easily. It can be confusing, and it's easily taken back 10 seconds later if the kid's doing something that we don't approve of. It leads to lower motivation, especially later on if it isn't kept up, and it can lead our children to question themselves if they're not getting it when they expect it. Good girl, good running, good sharing, great helping, great tidying, good boy. You know what I think? Good praising. Yes, share enthusiasm. Yes, be encouraging. If one of your kids does something great, don't stress if you accidentally shout out, awesome, woohoo, you're the best. Because sincere and unexpected feedback doesn't seem to be as destructive as the other forms of praise we've been talking about. But ultimately, if we want to build up our kids, don't praise them. Be more effective at it by encouraging them. Now, I'd love to hear from you on this topic. Go to justincoulson.com/podcast/6, like the number 6, and tell me, how has this podcast impacted your thinking? Leave your answer or any questions that you've got about praise at justincoulson.com/podcast/6. And I'll be back in a sec with some advice for a mum whose toddler is lashing out.
Your conference is about to start. It's 5 minutes to go. People are inside taking their chairs. I wonder what's going to happen next. Perhaps you're worried about the guest speakers. What will they say? Will it be appropriate, relevant, and up to date? Will it be evidence-based? Will they stick to time? Is it going to be boring? You want to be sure that the information at your conference will tick all your boxes and give everyone the stuff they want to learn. You want people to come to you at the end of the day and say, wow, thanks for organising today. I took so much away from your conference. Dr. Justin Coulson can help. He provides keynote speeches from 30 minutes to an hour and a half, workshops from 90 minutes to half days, and even day-long seminars. He speaks to school kids, professional educators, principals, and teachers who are working day-to-day in the classroom, right through to other professionals like lawyers and bankers who are parents. Because we all want happier families, happier classrooms, and happier workplaces. So, what's your next conference about? If you'd like to learn more about getting a speaker who will help your audience learn, laugh, and leave with practical tools that will empower them to be happier, more productive, and better parents, teachers, people, and if you'd like the credit for having chosen that speaker, visit justincoulson.com. For more information about booking Dr. Justin Coulson as a speaker at your next conference, justincoulson.com.
This week I'm responding to a question from a mum whose little one keeps on hitting. She says, Dear Dr. Justin, my 3.5-year-old does not play nice with other children. He often becomes frustrated and then lashes out with things like hitting. We've been working with his daycare teachers, focusing on feelings, both his and the other children. At home, we do the 1, 2, 3 magic system. I just worry as this has been going on for over a year. And to be honest, I'm at a loss as to what to do with him. He has these epic tantrums as well where he'll throw things when he's in timeout. Of course, we make him clean this up. I just would like to know if this sounds like age-appropriate behaviour or should I be looking for more intervention? I don't want this to continue once he gets to primary school. Thank you, from a mum in Menai. Well, here's my response. There's a bunch of challenges, that children face as they work through these difficult toddler and preschool years. So I'm going to talk about 3 things, and just 3 things that we can do to help this little guy navigate this phase of life successfully. First off, we'll talk about developmental changes that are crucial for us as parents to understand if we want to help our kids as toddlers and preschoolers. Second, I'm going to describe why behaviour management programs like 1, 2, 3 Magic don't actually get the results that we're looking for. And finally, I'll have a look at some really concrete suggestions to help get through this phase. So let's get into development first of all. If you've got children who are, let's say, 2 years old, you get a terrible shock because the terrible twos hit. Little baby starts having an opinion, and when we say no to our young children, or when their friends do things that they don't like, they just have tantrums, and that's normal. It is actually developmentally appropriate. It doesn't mean that they should keep doing it, but it is normal, and it's up to us to help them to work through it. The reality is that age 3 is tougher. I know we talk about the terrible 2s, but 3, my goodness, they're bigger, they're more strong-willed, they're more certain that the world needs to be the way that they want it to be, and they can play up and make things even harder for us. Now, there's something that's called theory of mind. That's what psychologists call it. It means that we can tell what another person's thinking or what another person is feeling. And when we say to our child, no, and they don't have theory of mind, they just can't understand why we would think or feel something that they don't think or feel. The difficult thing about this is kids don't develop this ability until somewhere around about the age of 5. Maybe early developers will get it around 4, 4.5, but the reality is 4.5, 5, 5.5 is much more likely. And this is at least part of the reason why this little guy and why all of our toddlers and preschoolers have the tantrums that they have and why they lash out. They just can't understand why their friends, or why us as their parents, or why their teachers would tell them that they can't do what they want to do, or why they can't have what they want to have. Now, at the same time that our children at this age are grappling with this challenge, they're also struggling to develop social skills. Can you imagine trying to play with people who keep on wanting things that you don't? They're always demanding that you do things that you don't want to do. They want you to do what they want to do. It's very frustrating. So let's look at the second thing. If we've got this theory of mind issue, this helps us to understand why some of those standard techniques don't work. It's going to be ineffective when you scold a child to play. Let me say that again. It's going to be ineffective when you scold a child or put them in time out at this age, because they're not going to go and sit there and think, gee, Mum, you're right. I should treat my friends better. I shouldn't have tantrums. Instead, they sit in the corner and they think, why does everyone hate me? What's wrong with me? Why am I in trouble when it was my friend that wouldn't do what I said? So punishment gets really confusing and really, really isolating for children, regardless of their age, but particularly for toddlers and preschoolers. It causes them pain, but it doesn't teach them particularly well. It just makes them feel unworthy. It leaves them thinking, what is wrong with me? And what's wrong with my feelings? So what do we do instead? Here's the steps that I recommend, not necessarily in this order either, by the way. First up, remove the kids from the situation and just make sure that any child who's been hit is okay. Second, offer both of the children comfort and support, even the one who's done the wrong thing. Help them to feel safe and reassured. And with the little boy or the little girl who's lashed out, whatever you do, don't scold them and don't isolate them. Just make sure that they're not going to hurt anybody else. Next, describe what you're seeing. And I think that this Menai mum is actually doing this to some degree. You might say, you're really upset because of this. Or, when that happens, you find it really frustrating, don't you? So you're not talking so much about the behaviour, you're talking about how it feels for them in that situation. And the idea of this is that as our children feel understood, they start to calm down. And as they calm down, then we can start to get logical. If you get logical too early, it won't work. Nothing works with anyone when they're emotional if we're just being logical with them. They don't want logic, they want understanding. So once our kids are calm, then we get to finally say, so that really upset you before. What do you think is a better thing to do next time? We might say, what's the appropriate way to act, or what's the appropriate way to talk? And we want to keep that conversation going until they can give us the right answer. We might say something like, what's the right thing to do next time? Now, this is different to lecturing, because what we're actually doing is we're asking a question and then we're listening. We're inviting our children's input. And if you find out that another child has been the bully or the antagonist, ask your child then, well, when that person does that to you, is it okay to hit? Is it okay to be angry? Is it okay to throw things? And every time they're going to say, well, no, because they know it's not okay. And then we just say, well, what's the right thing to do instead? So throughout this entire process, it's not about getting mad. It's about teaching and problem solving. And to do this effectively, our children need to feel safe. But they also need to know that there are limits. And this is the final part of the conversation. You say, okay, if this happens again, what will we have to do? And that way you can make sure that he understands that more problems mean playtime is over. It's not about punishment, but it's about helping him to know that we have to treat other people with respect. And if we can't do that, then we can't be with them right now. So if he tantrums at any time when you're going through this process, don't get mad. That just means that he's not feeling understood again. Instead, take him somewhere quiet, offer him hugs, let him know, I can see how mad you are. I'm here with a hug when you're ready. If he refuses hugs, say, that's okay, I'll just be waiting over here. When you're ready for a hug, you can come and give me one, and then we can have a chat and you can go and play again. Sometimes you actually need to move away from the kids so that they can settle, but always let them know, I'm here for you when you're ready. I'm happy to give you a hug. You're not in trouble. I just want you to calm down so I can hug you and make you feel good. Okay, so once again, we're talking here about setting limits on behaviour, not as a punishment. Just setting limits and having a conversation about what's okay. And you can do this with 3-year-olds. You're actually inviting them to be part of the solution. It's a tricky process. It takes practice, but I've seen it work time and time again. All of the parents that I coach go through something like this at one point or another, and it really makes a big difference. It's so much better than punishing them. So that's my response for this week. Remember, you can ask me any questions that you'd like at justincoulson.com/questions. You can leave a voice message with your question, or you can email me all the info you need, justincoulson.com/questions. Up next, I've got a parenting hack for bored little kids who are driving you crazy, who are understimulated, and who are simply dying for something to do.
We all love our children, but sometimes they can make life challenging, and we're all searching for the right answers. In the end, all we want is happy children and happy families. Dr. Justin Coulson is one of Australia's most respected parenting voices. His seminars have equipped and empowered thousands of parents to make their families happier. But sometimes getting to a parenting seminar can be tough. There's work and other commitments. Then there's the issue of the children and babysitters. Now you can watch one of Dr. Justin's seminars from the comfort of your own home and at a time that works for you. In this seminar video, available online now, you're invited to sit in on one of Dr. Justin's parenting seminars as he takes you from confusion to clarity. Combining parenting research with heartfelt stories, you'll discover the 3 essential keys to raising a resilient child and creating a happy family. You'll learn how to build a strong connection with your children, how to really understand them, and how to get discipline right. What your child needs from you, a seminar from Dr. Justin Coulson at justincoulson.com. Download this 90-minute seminar now or purchase the DVD at justincoulson.com.
So as our preschoolers get older, especially towards the end of the school year, they start to look for more and more stimulation. But your responsibilities haven't changed a bit. You've still got to do everything. The kids just want more of you and they just want more to do. And one of the simplest, funnest things that you can do is grab a handful of sheets or blankets and send the kids into the lounge room or the playroom and get them to make cubby houses. It's such a simple parenting hack, and it gives them endless fun. Give them the cushions, give them access to the dining chairs, whatever it is that they need. You might even get involved a little bit yourself. They're going to feel like they've built the Taj Mahal. They'll play in it. They'll eat in it. They'll practically want to sleep in it. And now that the weather's getting genuinely warmer, you can play some really simple outdoor games as well that occupy them for ages. I don't know if you ever played quoits as a kid, but the kids love these simple games. They love hopscotch, they love marbles, they love elastics. They're all simple outside games that keep them away from screens. They keep them active, they keep them stimulated, and even some simple things like water play or some paints or driveway chalk. It can occupy them in really creative, playful pursuits. It can stop them being bored. And you know what? If they are getting bored, you can smile at them and say, that's okay, you'll think of something. Just keep them away from the screens and let them use their creativity and their imagination. So that's the parenting hack for this week. Get the kids outside, get them doing simple things, or get them building things like cubby houses. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Positivity Podcast. If you have any questions you'd like to have me answer, go to justincoulson.com/questions. I'll do my best to answer them in an upcoming podcast. You can leave a voice message or you can send me an email at justincoulson.com/questions. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, you can find the outline. You can find the resource links in the show notes, justincoulson.com/podcast/6, as in the number 6. And if you think that the podcast may have just made your family a little bit happier, or if you think that it could make other people's family happier, I'd be so grateful. I'd really appreciate it if you would visit justincoulson.com/podcast/6, like the number 6. You'll find Twitter, you'll find Facebook links. You can share it with your friends or followers. You can get the word out about the podcast. It helps people to discover me and discover what I'm doing. And if you've listened this long, I guess you're liking it, so hopefully other people will like it as well. I'd love it if you'd go to iTunes, rate the podcast on iTunes, because your ratings help other people to find the podcast and boost the visibility of what I'm doing here. And you can always subscribe to the podcast on iTunes as well, as quite a handful of people have started to do. So thanks for helping me to get the word out. That's it for this week. I'm going to have another podcast ready to go for you next week, talking about keeping children safe. Until then, remember, you don't have to be the best parent in the world. You just have to be the best parent in your child's world.